This week's edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight is brought to you by Leff's Atlanta Media, Atlanta's best journalist database. Subscribe at leffsatlantamedia.com. Welcome to the next edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight. We are talking with Rachel Kellogg, who is an editor with the neighbor newspapers here in Metro Atlanta. And Rachel's going to give us a little more detail about exactly what she covers and what the neighbor paper that she works on covers. And as I was just saying to her off camera, hopefully we can kind of focus people on stories that she wants and keep stories that she doesn't want out of her email inbox. How about that? I think that's a good plan, right?
Me too.
All right. So Rachel, tell me a little bit first about what your role is at the neighbor paper.
Okay, so I'm actually the bureau chief of all the neighbor newspapers now. That started in January of this year. And before that, I was the associate managing editor, and I had been for probably like 6 years of all of our neighbor papers, which we've consolidated down to where we just cover Fulton County. So there are 3 neighbor newspapers. There's South Fulton, North Side, and then our brand new, as of February, I think, the Fulton County Neighbor. And those are our 3 neighbors that we have, and I'm over all of them, but I'm technically the editor of the South Fulton Neighbor and the Fulton Neighbor, and Skylar Heath is the editor of the North Side Neighbor.
Okay. That's good. So yeah. How would you, let's kind of define geographically, right? So okay. How would you define, let's start on the north side. How would you define the area that the north side neighbor covers?
That is, and has pretty much always been Buckhead and Sandy Springs is north side to us. Okay. Since we don't have a North Fulton neighbor anymore, we'll sometimes work in, maybe a little bit of Roswell, and then we've always put in stuff from like Midtown, like Aquarium, Children's Museum, that kind of stuff. We've always run that stuff in North Side as well, but we define North Side as Buckhead and Sandy Springs.
Okay. And as you and I were talking about a couple weeks ago, not DeKalb County, right?
Not DeKalb County.
Not DeKalb County.
We haven't had a DeKalb neighbor. I mean, the years just all kind of blur together, yeah. But it's been probably like 5 years.
Yeah.
Maybe shorter. I don't know. I can't really remember.
But and I think sometimes when people have been around as long as I have, right? Mm-hmm. You get so used to there being these neighbors. So when one of them consolidates into another, you don't realize, wait a minute, they're not covering this area anymore. And I get that question a lot from clients and PR folks, like, wait, is there a neighbor here? Is there a neighbor here? Mm-hmm. So I thought, I'm going to do this podcast with Rachel, and then every time I'm just going to send it to them, and that way I won't have to answer their questions ever again, and they can just get it from Rachel directly.
That's funny.
So, and then, okay, so Fulton County obviously is Fulton County, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then South Fulton, is there a geographical line for that, or is it?
There is. We cover all of the cities in South Fulton. So, Fairburn, Union City, Hapeville, East Point College Park, all the other ones. There's like 8, I think. And then we kind of define South Fulton as South Atlanta as well, like Campbell Street area, Metropolitan Avenue, like Cleveland Avenue, those types of places that are, you think of as Hapeville or College Park, but they're actually within the city limits of Atlanta. So
right.
We just include them in South Fulton.
Oh yeah, it's funny. There's always this area that is, it's like this area. It's like west of the city, west of downtown, but not in. It's like inside 285, and it's always been kind of a weird area. It's like,
yeah,
what area? It's like it's not really Buckhead.
Yeah,
it's like Dixie Hills, Grove Park, Westlake area.
We defined this the other day. Skylar and I did. It was like west, Midtown or something. Someone called it. I said,
Right.
West Midtown? Do
Yeah.
you call it that? And she was like, yeah, everyone calls it that. And I was like, girl, I don't know.
But is that,
Maybe.
but it's not Cobb County. It's not,
No,
is it, it's kind of, I guess some of it's Fulton County, right?
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Gets
it's not,
very confusing. And then there's a lot of Atlanta that is not in Fulton County. Like there's parts of Atlanta in Cobb County and parts of Atlanta in DeKalb County.
right. Right.
So, I mean, I really have to draw that hard line for people because we are the legal organ for Fulton County. So it's really important to us to keep our news in Fulton County. So
Right.
even if it's over the line, like people will be like, oh, this is Sandy Springs. And I'm like, oh, not quite. That's Dunwoody. I have to get really specific, but there's a purpose. There's a reason.
All right. Let's see. So you've been how many years at the neighbor papers now?
I just had my 15th anniversary.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And where were you before that?
I was right before that, I was doing a fellowship at Southern Living Magazine. I was on the
Okay.
copy desk there.
Okay.
And then before that, I was still in school at Georgia State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
15 years.
Yeah.
Seems like just yesterday, right?
It kind of does, but also it really doesn't. I'll be 40 this year, so it's doesn't feel, yeah. Time's gone by really fast, but also
Yeah.
really slow.
So, what's if folks, and I think this part of the conversation has been good to kind of define a little bit for people geographically what's a story for your papers and what isn't. So I think that's done good there so far. I think we're going to clarify a lot of things for people. Anyway, is there a certain kind of story that you look for the neighbor papers that maybe
Um,
is maybe different from what other papers or other media outlets might be looking for?
yeah, we love, okay, well, I personally love to cover like council meetings. So I mean, pretty much anything that happens at a council meeting, I want to know about it and I want to write about it. And my South Fulton reporter, Alex, is the same way. So in South Fulton, I mean, we really have the jump on council meetings and things that just go on within the city. So in that way, yeah, like I want to cover those things, but the things that I really like to cover are like new businesses, just people doing really exciting things in the community, like someone starting a new nonprofit. Those kind of things are always really fun to write about.
Do you feel like there's when you say get a jump on it, do you feel like there are not other media outlets really covering that part of South Fulton?
Only when there's like a big issue going on where a bunch of people have, gone down to City Hall and then, the TV stations will show up and the AJC will show up. But we're really there covering things that affect taxpayers that aren't that exciting. We try to make them exciting because, well, really anything that
But it's important. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
It doesn't have
yeah,
to be exciting, but on the other hand, it's not hard to make things exciting when they involve your money because, I mean, I want to know where my tax dollars are going.
yeah. I'm trying to think media wise. I mean, other than metro wide TV stations or radio stations like newspapers in South Fulton. I mean, there's the Clayton paper, but that's Clayton.
Hmm.
Um, AJC kind of has one or two reporters who cover the south side of the city, but
They do.
there's probably is there another paper that covers South Fulton really?
Not
I don't.
really. The Village Voice covers issues in that area, but there's not really another one that just
Yeah.
goes to every council meeting and watches every council meeting and shows up to all the events and takes photos the way we do. And there's a lot going on down there. Like people really, I feel like in the past have disregarded that area, but there's so much going on there.
Yeah.
My reporter brings back just story after story, just from spending the day in the community. And I'm just always very impressed. I mean, because I'm from there, I'm from Hapeville. Like that's where I grew up.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I know that it's a fun, interesting place, but I definitely feel like it gets overlooked, or people just want to cover the crime element.
Well, yeah, sometimes it takes a little effort. We just started doing some work for the South Fulton Arts Alliance down there, and it's amazing
Hmm.
how much is going on down there.
Yeah.
I think you guys have done a story or two on that already, but I mean, there's a lot going on. We started talking to them about it. They're like, "Oh, we got this, and all kinds of events and activities." And I think it's sometimes it's just a matter of letting people know that this is
Mhm.
happening. I do like, you guys have I get the digital edition of the paper
Yeah.
um every day. Sometimes I think I get an email every day, but I don't. It's not.
Probably get a newsletter every day.
Yeah, yeah. How often it's not? Is it in print too or not?
We print once a week. We print
Once a
on
week.
Wednesdays. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But we update our website. We try to update it every day.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that's what I see is that daily newsletter. And I've noticed that, so the iconic, the print version doesn't change every day. Took me once or twice to realize, wait a minute, this isn't
yeah.
changing every day.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, now I get it. Um, so how do you guys like to, what's the best way if somebody has a story idea, best way to get you to shoot you an email? Is that usually the
Yeah.
easiest thing?
I will, I'll respond to my emails probably within 5 minutes, but if my phone rings and I'm not in the room with it, sometimes I won't see it for like 3 days. I don't know what the mental block is,
Yeah.
but emailing me is always the easiest way to
Okay.
get a hold of me.
All right. Well, and I'll put a little graphic in here to remind people of what your email is. But why don't you
Okay.
give people your email anyway, just so they can hear it.
Okay, it's rkellogg@mdjonline.com, or it's at neighbornewspapers.com. But R Kellogg is RKELLOGG.
Okay.
And
Two L's, two G's.
two L's, two G's. Yes.
Yeah.
Very
And
good.
are there, as we kind of get into election season and end of the year, are there some topics in particular that you guys are following or really want to be covering?
We love doing like candidate profiles leading up to the election. Those are always really fun. We did them leading up to the primaries. Usually we just send out a questionnaire to all of our candidates, so everyone gets the same questions, and everyone has a chance to send us their website and their headshot and everything. So that's usually how we do that. Leading up to the election in general, I mean, yeah, we cover when early voting is and that type of thing, like
Okay.
how you can vote, by mail, etc.
Are there any other kind of big stories in South Fulton that you're kind of keeping an eye on, that either issues or challenges or problems or anything happening down there that you want to keep an eye on?
Uh, hmm. My reporter Alex is keeping an eye on a lot of things down there. I feel like every week she's telling me about something, someone got like ejected from a council meeting, those type of things.
Right.
Like it's, and I remind her, if it's not, if it's just, drama, like that's not news necessarily. It can be, but and she knows, but there's some there's always been a little friction on some of the city councils down there. Like the city of South Fulton has always had friction with their mayor, and now I don't want to be wrong, but I think it's College Park right now. They're having friction with their mayor. The city council and the mayor are having friction. So we definitely keep an eye on those things and try not to just print, he said, she said.
Yeah, yeah, I can see how that would be. Got to be careful about getting into
Mhm.
the personal politics of city government. Kind of
Mhm.
cover what's actually happening, and not necessarily the.
Yeah. Even though it's, not fun. I mean, these are people's lives, but it's certainly interesting,
Yeah,
especially if you live there.
yeah, yeah, and I think sometimes people feel like there's not enough media coverage of what happens on the south side of Atlanta,
Yeah.
so it's important that you're covering it.
Mhm.
And there's a couple of radio and TV reporters who kind of focus on kind of that south of I-20 kind of area. So
Mhm.
I think, but I don't necessarily know that coverage is even
Right.
metro
And
wide.
my push, ever since I took over the South Fulton portion of the neighbor, my push has been like, let's get the good news out there. Because that's where I'm from. Like, I know there's a lot of good news. And there's a ton of good news down there. So that's really been my focus, getting the exciting artistic things that they're doing out. They have concerts down there all the time with
Yeah,
like huge names like T.I. and people like that. People like that I would have listened to in like middle school in the 90s. Like they have a
right.
lot of those and it's really fun.
Okay. All right. So this next little section is kind of a little bit of the fun lightning round. It's the let's learn about Rachel kind of section.
Okay.
So what is something kind of cool? I kind of call this the coolest thing. So what's the coolest thing about Rachel? And it could be
Hmm.
a hobby, a talent, something you collect, something kind of fun that people might not know about you.
Something fun people might not know about me. I mean, nothing that I collect or anything is cool, so that's hard to list. I have a huge stuffed animal collection, and that's not cool at all.
I don't know. That's kind of fun.
In fact,
Is there a theme to your stuffed animal collection?
yeah, video game stuffed animals
Oh,
is what
okay.
most of them are. Like I
All
have a
right.
lot of Pokemon stuffed animals. I have a lot of well, I mean, I have a ton of Pokemon stuffed animals, but I have like Yoshi stuffed animals from Mario and without getting too obscure, there's a few Japanese RPGs that have animal characters in them, and whenever I see a new plushie come out, I have to have it.
Are you heading to Dragon Con to replenish the collection?
I'm not. It's so crowded. I
Yeah.
just can't do it anymore.
I'm debating whether I want to go or not. I don't
It
know. We'll
was
see.
it was so much fun in my 20s, but
Yeah. Yeah, we'll
the
see.
last time I went, I was probably, I don't know, like 35 or something, and there were just so many people there, and I was so overwhelmed.
Yeah, it is. It does get crowded. All right. So
Mhm.
next question is, what is either the last book you've read or the last podcast you listened to? And you can answer one or the other or both.
Okay, well, the last book that I just finished it was called Heart Full of Lies by Anne Rule, which I don't know if you know her, but she's probably the most famous true crime writer. I mean, I pretty much only read nonfiction, and more specifically, I mostly read true crime.
Okay.
So,
All right. Um, favorite local restaurant?
my favorite local restaurant, well, I guess local to where? My favorite local restaurant that is within driving distance from me at my house is Thai House in Roswell.
Okay.
It's so good. They have
Always a fan
tons
of
of
always
vegan
a fan
stuff.
of always a fan of good Thai food.
I love
All
it.
right. Um, favorite guilty pleasure?
That's a good one. My guilty pleasure, maybe doing karaoke, even though I can't carry a tune to save my life.
That's the fun of karaoke, right? All right.
That's what I think.
Yeah. Favorite local getaway?
Local getaway. Maybe my brother has a lake house on Allatoona. That's probably
That
my
is a
most fun place to go. The water's so nice.
Yep, that is a good getaway. All right. And favorite non-work hobby?
Probably playing video games.
All right.
I play a lot of video.
What's your do you have a favorite?
My favorite that I play the most is it's a MMORPG, which you play with other people. It's Final Fantasy 14. I play
Okay.
it pretty much every day.
So I had one of my law professors at Emory that I work with. He's going down to Dragon Con and he's going to take part in this like Klingon singing panel or something. So
Sounds like fun.
so he like posted this song on YouTube where he was like to the tune of Suddenly Seymour from Little Shop of Horrors,
I
but it's
like
talking
that.
about Klingons and stuff. It's awesome.
Right.
He's like very staid kind of law
Mhm.
professor, but then he does this kind of fun stuff singing about Klingons on the side.
Yeah.
So very
Um,
fun.
okay.
Um, well, cool. So is there anything about the paper that we haven't talked about that we should mention?
Huh, not really. I mean, the big thing is the new Fulton County Neighbor, which covers the whole county. Like we
Yeah.
encompass all parts of the county. Even though we don't have a North Fulton paper anymore, I do put some North Fulton news in that paper. And that's the one we started when we got the legal contract for the county.
Okay.
So it's kind of just the home for all the legal ads run in all three papers, but
All right.
it's kind of its home.
Yeah, that's right,
So
because that was the Daily Report had that until they
mhm.
stopped their print edition, right?
Yep. And
Yeah.
that paper actually runs a daily report story in it every week.
Okay.
So we have a good
Gotcha.
relationship with them.
Yeah, they're good folks over there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Rachel, thank you so much for taking a few minutes. I really appreciate it. Um, and oh, I should remind people if they want to go to find the neighbor, the Fulton neighbor. Let's see. What's the best URL you want to send them to?
Um, Probably just neighbornewspapers.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Neighbornewspapers.com, and I'll put that in there.
Yeah.
Um, and that'll take you. Okay, so that takes you to the homepage, and they can see, and then they click over to the Fulton neighbor and get where they want to go.
Yeah, and you can see the e-edition there too. So you
There it
can
is. I'm
flip
looking at.
through the actual stories, and the most exciting part is you can flip through the legals there.
Ah, okay.
So like all 50, 60 pages of them.
And you get all kinds of interesting things in there, right?
You do, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You never know. You never know. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. As always, you can find our archive of journalist spotlights on YouTube if you want to watch the video version, or if you want to listen to the audio version. You can find four questions. Just Google four questions journalist spotlight, and you'll see it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all of that fun stuff. And you can listen to it either way. Best way to spend 20, 22, 25 minutes. If you're at the gym, driving to work, or just hanging around, listen to the four questions journalist spotlight and click that subscribe button and like it and tag it and share it with your friends. And then, as always, if you're looking for our database of Atlanta journalists, go to leffsatlantamedia.com, click and subscribe, and you get the database and you get access to our Mitch's Media Musings monthly newsletter and blog, where you get all kinds of good information about Atlanta's journalist community. All right, very good. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.